Welcome back to the Doc and Diana Show. I'm Dr. Chad Edwards, and I'm continuing my discussion on cardiovascular disease and hypertension and that whole paradigm. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the endothelium. The endothelium is the single cell layer thick lining of the arteries across your whole vascular system. And a lot of times this will get dismissed as it's just a single cell layer thick. It's almost just a membrane, and that's it. And nothing could be further from the truth. The endothelium is incredibly important, and it has a tremendous job at regulating blood flow. For example, if you eat a meal, when you sit down to eat, you need blood flow to go to your stomach, and you don't want that blood flow going to all of your muscles. Conversely, if you're going to go run 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, you want all of your blood flow going to your muscles, not to your stomach. So the endothelium helps to actually divert the blood flow to where it should go based on a number of signals that it receives from the neurologic system and the blood circulating through it. So the endothelium is actually a barrier, and it's also a sensor. So it picks up all of these signals and it decides what should happen to the blood vessel. It also has immune function, it has inflammatory function, oxidation function, and the inflammation, the oxidative stress, and the vascular immune dysfunction all function around that endothelium, and it regulates all of those processes. When we talk about vascular disease, it's a balance between the repair of the blood vessel and the damage to the blood vessel. If the damage overwhelms the repair mechanisms, then you have vascular disease. Conversely, if the repair mechanisms are in good shape, then you have good, healthy blood vessels, and the damage to them is exceeded by the repair mechanism. So you want good repair mechanisms, which will be the topic of another video sometime in the future. As far as the damage goes, the damage is a balance between nitric oxide and other chemicals that actually cause some I call them the damaging components. And they're things like endothelin, angiotensin II, aldosterone, and there's a whole host of other chemicals, but those are the three main ones. So it's a balance between angiotensin II, endothelin, aldosterone, and nitric oxide. If nitric oxide levels are high and are able to counterbalance the bad guys, so to speak, then there's not a lot of vascular damage. However, if you're losing nitric oxide or you're unable to produce it, then you will have net damage to the blood vessel, and you'll rely more on the repair mechanisms. So the key is nitric oxide is essential to maintaining health of the endothelium. And as the endothelium becomes unhealthy, we have what's called endothelial dysfunction. And we can actually measure endothelial function in our clinic. There are a couple of tests that are available on the market that physicians can use. One's called an endothelix, one's called an endopat. I think the endopat probably does a little bit better job. But we can test this in the clinic relatively easily, and I would argue cost effectively as well. So we can measure how healthy is your endothelium at the time. And it changes. It might change based on what you eat or any medications, different things. Your endothelial function can change substantially. But what's notable is that endothelial dysfunction occurs decades before hypertension and or cardiovascular disease. So if you have endothelial function, it predicts cardiovascular disease and hypertension. If you want to turn those things off, let's get the endothelium healthy. The way you do that is, there's actually several things that you can do, but we want to enhance the ability of your body to make nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is incredibly important, and it's of note, it is nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is laughing gas. That's when you go to your dentist and get the nitrous oxide. That's what your dentist puts on there and makes it where you can actually get your dental stuff done more comfortably. Nitric oxide, on the other hand, is for vascular health and essential for that. So there's a number of things that you can do to help increase nitric oxide, and we'll be talking more about some of those things that you can do. But there's two different mechanisms that your body uses to make nitric oxide. One is the L-Arginine pathway. L-Arginine is an amino acid, and it converts L-Arginine via an enzyme called endothelial nitric oxide synthase, and it will make nitric oxide with L-citrulline as a byproduct. There's a number of mechanisms that will shut that process down, and as we age, our ability to make nitric oxide through that L-Arginine pathway declines. You have to have good B vitamins, you have to have good methylation status, you have to have good glutathione and antioxidant systems. All kinds of things will influence whether that eNOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase enzyme, works well. Very complex, and we can measure several things in the clinic to see how well that system is working by blood tests and those tests that I mentioned as far as the endopat and endothelix. The alternate pathway is what's called the nitrate-nitrite pathway. And these are foods that you eat, like leafy greens that are high in nitrates. The bacteria in your mouth actually convert that from nitrate to nitrites. Then the stomach acid in your stomach will convert from nitrite to nitric oxide. And if you have an inability, both by your eNOS is not working well, you have a genetic SNP or a single nucleotide polymorphism, a genetic alteration where your eNOS doesn't work well, if your nutritional status is such that you're just not making much nitric oxide, we can utilize this alternate pathway to make nitric oxide. When we make good nitric oxide levels, endothelium gets healthier, cardiovascular disease risk goes down, blood pressure improves. So we'll talk about some things that we can do to help increase nitric oxide so that we improve endothelial function and overall cardiovascular health. Be sure to like these videos, share them with your friends, and be sure to subscribe as well. And don't forget to call our Tulsa Functional Medicine Clinic, revolutionhealth.org, at 918-935-3636.